Every reviewer covering the new RAV4 GR Sport has been handed the plug-in hybrid version. 309 horsepower, electric range, DC charging. That is the car they are talking about. This is not that car. This is the hybrid. 185 horsepower, no plug, and the same GR Sport chassis underneath. Nobody is reviewing this version. And after walking around it in emotional red, I think that is a mistake. Because what the GR Sport badge actually changes on this car has nothing to do with the powertrain. And that is the argument worth making. The 6th generation RAV4 in GR Sport trim reads differently from every angle than the lounge or the base car. The front grille drops the body color panel that other trims use and replaces it with a functional matrix design in gloss black. A decision that widens the face visually and gives the headlights a more aggressive frame. Toyota calls the new front end hammerhead, and on every other trim it reads clean and modern. On the GR Sport, it reads intentional. Emotional red, the color on this car, is a European market option that Toyota clearly developed with the GR Sport's black roof, black pillars, and black 20-inch alloy wheels in mind. The contrast between the red bodywork and the blacked-out upper section pulls the visual mass down toward the road, in a way that none of the monotone finishes manage. Walk to the side, and the body-colored arches sit wider than the standard car, 12.5 millimeters on each side. That is an engineering tolerance, not a styling decision. At the rear, a full-width reflector strip ties the taillights into a single horizontal signature, but the GR-specific rear bumper valance in piano black and the subtle spoiler extension above the tailgate add just enough visual weight without crossing into boy racer territory. These proportions work. The stance sits 15 millimeters lower than the standard car, and at this ride height the 20-inch wheels fill the arches without the gap that plagues most family SUVs. I expected the GR Sport exterior to be mostly cosmetic at this price. It is not. Every change you can see is connected to an engineering decision underneath, and what those decisions do to how this car rides and handles is the part that every plug-in hybrid review has been too busy talking about horsepower to mention. The suspension story is next. The standard RAV4 rides like it is constantly apologizing for being tall. The GR Sport does not. Stiffer high-performance front dampers, a reinforced rear anti-roll bar, and a quicker steering rack are the 3 changes that explain the difference. The result, according to the reviewers who have driven this chassis, is that the standard RAV4's slightly bouncy, oversoft ride disappears entirely. The GR Sport controls its body through corners and over uneven surfaces without becoming harsh. That balance is the hardest thing to get right in suspension tuning, and Toyota has apparently nailed it here. This is also the first Toyota to feature vehicle braking posture control, a system that manages body roll by applying individual wheel braking inputs when you turn into a corner. The car does not lean as much as a 1,700 kilogram, around 3,748 pound SUV should. It just turns. 185 horsepower in European hybrid specification is not dramatic. 8.1 seconds to 100 kilometers per hour, around 7.9 seconds to 60 miles per hour is perfectly adequate and no more. The 221 Newton-meters of torque from the updated hybrid system arrives immediately and smoothly, the way every Toyota hybrid does, but without the CVT moan that plagued older generations. Toyota redesigned the transaxle and power control unit for this generation, and the new lithium-ion battery pack is smaller and lighter than its predecessor, while delivering better output. For a car that wears a Gazoo racing badge, the power is modest. But the point was never straight-line speed. The point was that everything else about the way this car moves has been improved, and you do not need 300 horsepower to feel the difference. 5.8 liters per 100 kilometers, around 40 miles per gallon, on the WLTP cycle means the hybrid version costs less to run than any GR badge car probably should. The GR Sport interior earns exactly half of its badges. 9 GR logos are distributed across the cabin, on the steering wheel, the headrests, the sill plates, the floor mats, and the start button. Some of those are earned, some are furniture. What is earned is the driving position. The sport seats use perforated microsuede combined with synthetic leather and red contrast stitching, and they hold you through the corners the suspension now invites without hardening on a longer motorway run. The steering wheel is the right diameter and thickness for the car. The aluminum sport pedals feel deliberate rather than decorative. What is less earned is the lower dashboard. The materials below the knee line are harder than the lounge trim manages, and for a car wearing a sport badge at this price point, that gap is noticeable. The 12.9-inch touchscreen runs Toyota's Smart Connect system with a new Arene software platform underneath, and it is genuinely faster than any Toyota infotainment I have used before. The 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster is fully configurable and, for the first time in a RAV4, can display the navigation map directly. That gives you 3 layers of information: the cluster, the touchscreen, and the head-up display, without looking away from the road. The shift-by-wire toggle switch on the center console is a first for the RAV4 and works with a smooth, 2-stage operation that feels more intuitive than the old lever. What I noticed sitting in the front seats is that the physical climate control buttons have been retained below the touchscreen. Toyota made that decision deliberately, and I am grateful for it every time I use a car that went full touchscreen and regretted it. Toyota Safety Sense 4.0 is standard across every RAV4, including this one. The system uses updated hardware for pre-collision detection, lane tracing assist, and proactive driving assist, which adjusts speed and steering inputs based on traffic conditions and road geometry ahead. The previous generation already had a competent safety suite. This one adds intersection and oncoming vehicle detection that the old system lacked. It is not the reason to buy the GR Sport over any other trim, but it is the reason every trim in this range now feels genuinely current, rather than playing catch-up with the Korean competition. Rear passengers sit in a cabin that benefits from the same dashboard architecture as the front, but without the sport seat bolstering. Legroom is adequate for adults up to about 1.80 meters, around 5'11", before knees begin to meet the seat back. The rear bench is flat enough for 3 across on a short trip, though the center passenger will not thank you for anything beyond 30 minutes. The rear doors open wide enough to get a child seat in without contorting your back, which sounds like a small thing until you have done it twice a day for a year. 2 USB-C charging ports in the rear of the center console keep devices alive. Headroom clears comfortably despite the black roof, which does not intrude on interior space the way it appears to from outside. The rear climate zone operates independently from the front, a feature that the outgoing RAV4 did not offer at this level. This is a family cabin. The GR badges on the floor mats do not change that, and they should not. A full weekly shop for a family of 4 fits behind the rear seats without rearranging anything. 542 liters of boot space, around 19.1 cubic feet, is competitive in this segment and roughly level with the Volkswagen Tiguan. The loading lip sits at a height that does not require lifting heavy items above your waist, and the boot floor is flat from the tailgate to the seatbacks. Under the floor sits a space-saver spare wheel rather than a repair kit, a detail that earns more trust on a road trip than any spec figure. Fold the rear seats and the load area extends to a flat surface long enough for flat-pack furniture or a bicycle without removing the front wheel. The powered tailgate with height memory is standard on the GR Sport, which means you set it once for your garage ceiling height and forget about it. The cargo area also includes tie-down points on the floor and a retractable cargo blind, small things that add up when you are loading the car for a week away. The RAV4 GR Sport in hybrid specification starts from €45,200 in Europe. The Volkswagen Tiguan R-Line in comparable hybrid specification costs approximately $48,000, and it does not have the suspension or steering calibration that the GR Sport offers. The Hyundai Tucson N-Line Hybrid sits closer at around $44,000, with a sportier interior, but without the chassis development Toyota invested here. What this RAV4 actually settles is not whether you need 300 horsepower in a family SUV. It settles whether the GR Sport badge is worth paying for without the plug-in hybrid underneath. I walked onto the show floor expecting to find a cosmetic package on a sensible car. What I found was a chassis upgrade that happens to come with badges. Whether that distinction matters to you depends on whether you plan to drive this car or just park it. If you plan to drive it, the answer was clearer than I expected it to be. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe for more content just like this. Leave a comment below with your thoughts or questions. I read every single one. And don't forget to click the bell icon to get notified about my next upload. See you in the next video.